to Off the Record, talking real estate with Joe and Makayla. If you're interested in the Portland, Oregon real estate market and want the unvarnished inside scoop, you've come to the right place. Thanks for giving us a listen. Okay, welcome everyone. Hi, Makayla.
Hi, how are you?
I am fantastic. The sun is out. We've had a really wet spell lately.
We have.
I know. Nothing like hot weather talk to start your podcast, but it's April and it's just been brutal. So
I'm ready to get in the garden. I'm supposed to wait a couple more weeks. I know you're thrilled to get in your garden.
I don't get in the garden. I'm told to stay away from the garden.
Yesterday we were at a listing appointment and I was infatuated with this woman's garden. It was amazing. And of course, if you don't know, it's asparagus season. So there were purple asparagus coming out. She ripped it out of the garden and was like, here you go, Joe. And she hands him a dirty asparagus right from the garden. He was chomping on it. And it was very good asparagus.
Well, it was like 2:00 and I hadn't had lunch yet. So I was like, yeah, okay. Looks like I'm having purple asparagus for lunch today. It was good.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was a lot sweeter than I thought.
I saw you with serious garden envy.
Yes. It was amazing.
It was amazing. We're hoping to get a property. We interviewed for it. We're hoping to get a property that is, one of those ones that we get that it's like, oh my gosh, this is spectacular.
Yeah.
Unbelievably
true lifestyle.
Yeah. A true lifestyle and such a unique piece of land, you know? So,
yeah, that was fun yesterday.
It was fun.
But today we're going to talk about some advice for first-time home buyers. I know we've talked about this before, but this is kind of zooming out even a little bit further. So I have a lot of people in my life who are kind of end of college age, knowing that they want to buy a home at some point, but they have no idea where to get started other than, maybe trying to start and save some money, which obviously is a pillar. But, they don't teach you about credit cards and why it's important to have credit in school. And that's something that you need to think about and prepare for if you're interested in buying a home within the next 1 to 3 years.
And I think this is great advice for anyone, not just first-time home buyers, but, we're going to talk about credit. What is credit? The importance of building credit, managing credit cards, and then employment history and what lenders, underwriters look for in that. And then also saving for a down payment. So lots and lots of good information here for, first-time home buyers, but for anyone that is thinking about buying a home, whether it's your first home or any home, these are kind of fundamentals that you need to know about.
Definitely. We want to preface this with saying we aren't credit experts. There are certain people who are, but we aren't. But we did a lot of research for this episode. We interviewed 2 of our trusted mortgage brokers. We gave them all these questions and they were kind enough to take the time to answer them. So we interviewed Todd Gettison at Vantage Mortgage Group. His information will be in the show notes. And then we also interviewed Mindy Hay at Union Home Mortgage, and they gave us some great tidbits that I wouldn't have thought of. So
yeah, and it's a topic that I feel like most people just aren't comfortable with and don't know a ton about until it's too late. You know what I mean? So this will be good.
It's good to get ahead of the game. So we want to start with the importance of building credit. And the reason you need to start building credit in order to buy a home is because each of the government agencies who fund the home loans, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Ginnie Mae, and jumbo loans, all require you to have a credit score in order for them to lend on the home. They use this as kind of like as a barometer to see how good are you at paying your bills and being on time with payments, because obviously that's important to them. If they're going to give you a loan for the home, they want to make sure you're going to pay it every month.
And I remember coming out of college thinking, I don't have any credit. I'm golden. I should be absolutely at a zero baseline, but that's not how they see it.
Right.
No history is as bad as bad history.
Right. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But luckily we have some good advice. So I was curious to know how long it takes to build credit. And Todd let us know that from a score of 0, it takes a minimum of 4 to 6 months to start building a credit score, which is actually a little sooner than I thought. But if you have hard inquiries on your credit, you missed some payments or took out an auto loan, which, things happen. obviously you need to buy a car, missing payments, things like that. It can take a little bit longer to rebuild your credit than 4 to 6 months. So.
Yeah. And there's a lot of tips and tricks that we won't go into here. If you have what would be considered bad credit, in the 500s or, something like that, it's not the end of the world. And it doesn't mean that you can't ever buy a home or get your credit to where you want it to be. It just takes a plan and it takes time to make that happen. And there's certain things you can do and see an improvement right away. And we highly recommend getting in touch with Todd or Mindy to have those conversations, especially if you're looking to buy a home, because too many people think, oh, my credit's horrible. I had some lates and this and that and the other. And the reality is, you can change your credit score fairly quickly, especially if you're on a plan and doing certain things on a consistent basis. You can get that up to probably a very surprisingly high level in a short period of time.
And don't be afraid to check your credit score. I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit later on with managing your credit, but I was always under the impression that it was bad to check your credit score.
No.
And so I would go like 6 months without checking it.
You're allowed a free credit score a year, I believe it is. Like you can go online and apply to one of the bureaus. And by law, they have to give you a copy of your credit score one time a year.
Okay.
Which is great. But there's also a lot of different services and apps and different things that you can sign up for and subscribe to that will help you monitor your credit and also help you build your credit as well.
Yes, absolutely. So moving into managing the credit cards, how do you know what credit card to sign up for? There are a gazillion commercials and ads out there. I know it gets so confusing. So what would be your recommendation for that, Joe?
Apparently, and I didn't know this till recently, not all of the credit cards report to all three of the bureaus, which are TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. Make sure that the card that you're going to pick up reports to those three, because especially if that's what you're trying to do is establish credit, if they don't report to all three, then it's kind of a wasted effort. But there's so many great things out there as far as points and certain percentage back and this and that and the other. The thing to look at though is the fees. How much are the fees on a yearly basis? And what's the interest rate? A lot of these 0% upfront, 0% for 6 months, and then 27% after that. It's just ridiculous.
It is.
You don't want to get yourself in that position.
Right. And sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Of course, that doesn't, because I was confused about that for a long time too. You're not gaining interest by just making a purchase on a credit card. You're only gaining interest if you're not paying the credit card off in full every month. Correct. It's just the outstanding balance, right? A lot of people think, oh, I don't want to apply for a credit card either because you have bad credit, no credit, whatever. There's other ways that you can get credit. I mean, you can go to your bank, apply for, a secured credit card. And basically what that is, if you have $500 in your account and you say, I want a credit card for $200, they can get you a credit card with a fixed amount and away you go. That's great. I think that can provide some security to people who
especially
maybe think
students.
they don't have some self-control or whatever.
Yeah. And, all credit, not all credit cards have limits, but those are only if you have a high net worth and spotless credit. So the no limit credit cards go to people that really don't need the no limit credit cards, right?
Right.
But most credit cards will have a limit on it. They'll send it to you and say, oh, you've got $5,000 worth of credit on this and all that sort of good stuff. But the bank, whoever you bank with, might be a great place to start with because you have that relationship with them. You typically will have a savings account or a checking account, something like that with them. And it's just a great way to kind of keep it all under one roof. And usually you can use their portals to check on all that. And a lot of them have credit reporting information right in the portal.
Yeah.
So
that makes it nice. I always go for the ones with the airline miles, with the airline sign-on bonuses.
I do too.
Personally.
We use a Visa for our business. We get air miles for that, which is wonderful. But they've started cutting back. When we first got this card, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, whatever it is, I've noticed that now all of our expenses that we pay seem to be the same, but we're not getting the same benefits.
Oh, that's lame.
Yeah. I've heard they're cutting way back and not giving you as much credit for the amount that, you're buying. So read the small print.
Yes.
Figure out what works for you.
It's annoying, but sometimes it's worth hopping on a hotline and asking some questions.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can negotiate your interest rate lower.
Oh, for sure.
Helpful.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things when, you talk to people about credit repair, if you have low, damage credit or whatever, having the conversation with the credit card companies, think is one of the things that they talk about doing is, hey, you got to get in touch with these people, talk about your interest rate, talk about different things. But we're going to go into some of the best practices. And one of the best practices is to have 30% of the limit owed. It's better to have 30% of the limit owed on 3 cards rather than 100% of the limit on 1 card, because that's one of the things that the 3 credit bureaus look at is, so if you have, let's just say $10,000 in credit, how much of that credit are you actually using? And they like to see a 30% gap. So $7,000 or less. When you start moving past 70% of your credit that has been given to you, then they start dinging you on that, right?
And with that, make sure that you're paying on time every time. They also want to see that.
Even if it's just the minimum, right?
Agreed. And obviously, if you can, pay off your monthly balance in whole. So moving into the next pillar, which is really important, is employment history. So when you go to apply for a home loan, they're going to want to see that you have a job and can make the monthly payments on the loan. So different positions are going to require different employment histories. So we won't go through those, but anytime you're transferring from one job to another, so say you're moving states maybe, or just getting a new job, you need 1 pay stub prior to closing on the home.
So basically you need to be in your job for 30 days.
Right. And then if you have a larger job gap, which is 3 months or more since your last job, or changing fields, it could require 3 to 6 months on the new job. And then a new salaried position, they just need 1 30-day pay stub prior to closing. And then if you're fresh out of college, which this is what I did, you can use transcripts from school as work history. And then with that, you need 1 month on the job.
Do they look at your grades, do you think?
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they're just curious.
So your 4-point was like, yeah, let's give her some credit.
Not sharing what my GPA was.
It was a 4-point.
Of course.
Yeah. Just like mine was.
But I remember being a little nervous, like, okay, I thought I was done being graded finally. Jeez. But
yeah,
that's a nice alternative. And then I didn't know this, but if you're working for a family owned company, they need 6 to 12 months of history.
Interesting.
Yeah. I didn't know that until.
What about for us self-employed folk?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
So if you're self-employed like us, or you work at a job that's commission-based, they need 2 years of employment history to use that income to apply for the loan. So if your spouse has, a salary job, then you can use that income and maybe a little bit of your commission job, but more than likely they're going to want 2 years of your history.
And they're probably going to want 2 years tax returns.
Oh, yeah, they sure are.
Yeah.
That's really the only way to prove it to them.
Yeah. Yeah. But they take gross income. So that's kind of nice because we do have a lot of expenses. So when you get that net, sometimes it gets skinny down pretty good.
Sure does.
Right? So employment is very, very important. The other thing that I think is worth mentioning is if you do buy a home and you're going through the process, you've got a home, you've got an accepted offer on, don't change your jobs.
Yeah.
We've had that happen a handful of times over the years where they do a what's called a VOE, verification of employment. And, they'll call up and say, yeah, we're here to talk to Makayla. You have to give your supervisor's name or whoever. Yeah, I'm calling for Makayla. She is the supervisor for Joe. Oh, well, we let Joe go last week. He decided to take a different job somewhere. Bang.
Not going to go well during the closing process. Done. Yes. This happened to us not that long ago. We had, I don't know if you actually knew this, but we were under contract, one of our listings, and the buyer got cold feet, putting that in quotation marks, really one of the buyers had quit their job since they were last pre-qualified.
Oh, yeah.
So
did it work out for us?
No, it didn't.
Oh, well, that's too bad.
Yeah. Big bummer.
You decided it was better for me just to not know that piece.
Well, it's all the same. It didn't work out.
It didn't work out. Let's spare Joe the details.
So then, of course, the next thing is saving for that down payment. That's, the biggest thing that people are worried about, especially several years out. People are always curious to know some ways that they can start to save for their down payment. And there's many different paths to do that. There's no secret sauce either. I wish we could tell you that you can put your money in a certain account and it'll blow up for you. But you got to be diligent. You have to budget, start building that savings as much as you can. Use things like tax returns or gifts from family or anything like that, and just stick it into an account and just be patient with it.
Yeah, patience is key with this type of setup. You just got to be consistent and know that over time you're going to get to your goal, but it's going to take some time.
Right. We actually just signed up for a SoFi savings account, which is at an all-time high for interest.
Really?
Yeah, it's like 4.68%.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
So fun fact. And then Todd also mentioned things like you could sell some of your assets. Maybe you have like a collectible car or something. I don't know. There's tons of things like that you might have that you could sell in order to start saving up. There's also 100% finance loans, which are not as common, but we are working with one right now, and it seems to be very legitimate so far.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. We work with them from time to time, and it's a process getting the buyer approved. But once they're approved, it's good. It's golden. So that's the key is you got to kind of wait until you're underwriting approved, and then you can go out and make offers and that type of thing. But once you're approved, you're as good as anyone else when it comes to, down payment, no down payment. It doesn't really matter at that point.
Yeah, it seems like a great option. So if you're curious about that, we'd be happy to connect you with someone who can do those 100% finance loans. In the scenario we're working with right now, it's a buyer on a $450,000 loan, and they are putting down $4,000 in earnest money up front, but then they get that earnest money back at closing.
Yeah, I know. Kind of like VA. VA has the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, they do 100% and you get the earnest money back at closing. So
it's nice.
I've got a list of first-time buyer programs that I thought I'd run off for you.
Yes.
What do you think?
Well, let's hear it.
All right.
Real-time research.
The Oregon Bond Program.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that?
A little bit.
Yeah. So it's deeply below market interest rate or cash grant for closing cost that every first timer wants. So definitely worth looking into. And just so you know, we're going to post these to our website, livportland.com, LIVportland.com. And you can go to the website, click on our podcast link, go to this episode, and we'll have a link to all of these. But there's also down payment assistance, which is paying the equivalent to a mortgage payment and rent, which is what so many people are doing. But the biggest obstacle for many of these folks is down payment. There is a down payment assistance program available for Portland, Clackamas County, and pretty much statewide. There's also a new program providing up to $60,000 in forgivable down payment assistance for Washington, Yamhill, and Lincoln counties.
Wow.
I know. There was just a recent change with this program in Oregon, so definitely worth looking at. There's also MAP 100% financing, which combines the Oregon Bond first mortgage with community-funded second mortgage for eligible borrowers. This provides below market rate on the majority of the mortgage with no mortgage insurance.
Wow, that's huge.
I know. That is amazingly such a big advantage. Lowest payment possible given 100% financing and non-VA loan. There's also a conventional 100%. That's out there right now.
Thought I saw that.
Yeah, up to 4% down payment assistance of the purchase price. Only one of the applicants needs to be on the loan, income limit of close to, so only one of the people, one of the borrowers will be looked at for the income limit. So the income limit of close to $150K in Portland.
Wow.
Yeah, that covers a lot of people right there.
It does.
There's obviously FHA, 100%. The thing about FHA 100%, it goes all the way down to 600 for your credit score.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of these first-time buyers just might not have a large credit history.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's also Beaverton and Habit 50K down payment assistance. Can be combined with the MAP 100% financing as well as the Oregon bond for eligible borrowers. Must currently live or work. So live or work in Beaverton to qualify for that.
Okay.
But it can be combined with those other ones.
Wow.
How crazy is that?
That is crazy. I feel like we need to be shouting this from the rooftop.
I'm shouting right now. This is my shouting voice. Gresham has a welcome home $40,000 down payment assistance that can be combined with the MAP and also the Oregon bond, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
And then VA has 100% financing as well. Washington State has some really cool stuff, and we'll put the links to that. But just that list right there, I mean, just gives a ton of different options for people. And I feel like some of these are even credit challenged, right? You can be down to a 600 credit score and still be eligible to get 100% financing.
That's great.
I think everything else is going to have to be in order as far as your current income, the debt to income, your employment, all those things, but still.
Yeah.
So
some good options.
Everyone out there, you might be closer than you think. Hit our website up at LivPortland.com and we'll have links to these where you can click on it and find out more information.
Yes. And if you just want to talk through this and have any additional questions, we're always happy to chat. Just give one of us a call.
Mm-hmm. And as far as down payment goes, I think I kind of cut you off with that whole program thing, but I think it's worth knowing, if you're a first time home buyer, you can go as low as 3% down and sometimes 100% down. I would say shoot for that 3%, 3 to 5% down as your goal.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
That's a great goal.
Yeah. And, when you're talking $400,000, that's a lot of money.
It is.
But if you get a plan put together and are looking at 12, 24, 36 months and consistently every month saving towards that, putting it away, it'll be there in no time for you.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's good to plan ahead.
Always good to plan ahead. All right. Well, I think that's about it.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
Thanks
Great information, Makayla.
Thank you.
I know you've been wanting to do this episode.
I'm excited about all those loan opportunities.
The links?
Yes, the links.
We will post those, but we appreciate you joining us and we're excited to see you again next time. For now, have a great day.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us today. If you're interested in finding out more about Joe, myself, or the LivPortland team, you can go to livportland.com. Thanks for giving us a listen and see you next time on the Off the Record podcast.